doors and windows. The best little door house in Texas. Call 281-530-8100.
Storm season is here. If your home has been damaged by high winds and hail, call Ameristar Roofing now. 281-701-7571. That's 281-701-7571. Be sure to use the code RED. That's code RED for Ameristar Roofing.
Ameristar Roofing. Ameristar Roofing.
Rowdy, it's Clint.
Long time no talk to. I cannot remember the last time you and I saw each other face to face. It's got to be 15 years or more.
I bet it is. Well, I'm making the rounds now. You wouldn't believe how busy I am.
I know.
It's exciting. I don't have any singing to do at the minute, so I'm talking more than I've ever talked.
I can see why. I want to cut to the chase and get to the book, and then we'll talk about other stuff. But first off, two things just that I think you can appreciate. One is that I'm doing this from our place on the beach down here in Galveston, which is literally right across the Blue Water Highway from Clay Walker's house.
Tell him to keep it down over there.
Right around the corner is this little marina called the Sea Isle Marina, where Clay has his very own parking space, and no one is to park in that parking space except for Clay. It's got this big sign on it that says, "Parking exclusively for Clay Walker." And last time I was down there, I took a great big Rowdy sticker and smacked it on top of his name and then texted it off to him. So it said parking exclusively for Rowdy until he probably drove back up there and peeled it off himself.
I bet he did.
I'm sure he did.
I love that.
And also, I'm really surprised that this interview got off on time anyway, because I brought my new little puppy dog down here, and the second I opened the door, he immediately jumped out and made a beeline for the Blue Water Highway, and I had to go chasing after him. So I'm lucky, A, I got the dog, and B, I'm not dead.
Yeah, you gotta stop at the highway even if the dog runs across and look both ways.
I know. I said the magic word treat, and he turned right back around. Well, anyway, so
that'll do it.
Tell me about this book. I'm very curious about the process in this, because we know you're a gifted singer and a gifted songwriter too, but knowing the meticulous perfectionist you are, something tells me your fine hand might have been in this a little bit more than your typical artist would be in a project like this.
Yeah, it was. I didn't want to do it if someone else was going to do it for me. You know, I talk about the perfectionist thing. I was accused of that once, and I challenged a guy, and he said they have a test, and they made me take a test, and I passed the test. I'm not a perfectionist, but I'm striving for excellence. I didn't know if I could write an excellent book, but I wanted it to be my effort. And so, yeah, I was 10, 12 hours a day at times working on this. And I had Craig Shelburn's help. He had just written the Opry 100 book, and he was a master at doing the research and finding the things that, you know, I said happened in 1993, and he said, nope. And we did long interviews with me, and then with me and the guys in the band who are still there, and then with me and Lisa and Lily. And he transcribed all that so I could just go in and pull out and rewrite whatever I wanted to use. And it was really hard, and he moved up the release date, and I'm really sweating it. And then I finished it. I was actually over in Italy when I got to the very end, and I was so relieved. I just couldn't believe it. I did it. And then they said, okay, now we're going to start the editing process.
I'm kind of curious about that. If you compare putting out a book to putting out an album, because, you know, it's famous. I can't quote it verbatim, but basically they say that most artists never finish an album. They just eventually surrender. Was that kind of the way it was with the book?
They abandon it, yeah. No, it was not like that, because there are other people who are pretty much not going to put it out, you know, if you haven't fixed things. And there was a legal department at the publishers involved, trying to keep us all out of court. But yeah, I had an editor, you know, at HarperCollins who I was really, really excited about having her involvement, because I know what they can do for the quality of a book. I was a good student and, took feedback and input really well, which made the book better. It was a grind. Put everything I had into it, overwrote it, and then edited it down to the best possible book. By the fifth time going through the editor's notes, I was now reading the book I had written and gotten emotional in the writing of it, to the point where now I'm reading it in a different way, and suddenly I guess my guard is down and the emotion, it penetrated me in a different way. And at times I'm just sobbing, into every life, a little rain must fall, and mine too has fallen. And writing about it is different than reading it, I guess. And then I thought, I'm done. This is it. And they go, okay, we need to schedule you recording the audiobook.
Oh, wow.
It was like,
was that done word for word, or was that done with the help of artificial intelligence?
Oh, no, it was all me. It took me 5 days, and it was work.
So I understand that you did address the splitting of the sheets with Bill Ham in this book, which I think a lot of people in the industry famously remember, but you've decided to go ahead and tell your side of the story on that, huh?
Yeah, and it's there's a good lesson in there, and I was always coming out of that counting my blessings that I found out about him early enough to still have some career left, I still had to be careful about a few things that I talked about in that for anyone who's still living. And then there were some things that were too scary to go near. He was kind of a scary guy, and I was just glad to get away from him. But there were things going on in the midst of all that I don't think I ever talked about publicly. And people around me who read the book can't believe it. I had people coming up to me for years after that. I would be working with promoters and such, who would say, I never would have worked with you while you were with him. I wouldn't have gone near it.
Let's talk a little bit about the resurgence in popularity in 90s country music, and I'm going to bring up another mutual friend of ours by the name of Tracy Lawrence, who, like you, is on his 35th anniversary tour. And just the other day, he said, I think the person that is most amazed about all of these back-to-back sold-out shows is me. And they can't sell enough tickets. They can't put them in enough places. And it looks like he probably could have booked out 3 times more places if he'd have had the days. All of a sudden, it just seems like an entirely new generation of people has said, you know what? I kind of like this better than what I'm hearing right now.
Well, and the music that's becoming most popular now with the kids is more like that. And, a lot of these artists, Ella Langley, Riley Green, ERNEST, it's a growing list. They went through the 90s country with us, and then they went through the 2000s country with us, and they decided that, the trend was we're going to get more poppy, we're going to get more walls of guitars, and we're going to bring in the we call it hip hop. I was never a fan of that, but I could see where the talent was. And then I started to see where that was falling out of favor and becoming maybe not less popular, but something else was rising above it. More steel guitar, all of that. And then artists pointing at us, Jon Pardi asked me to come sing Killin' Time with him, at the stadium there in Nashville, and CMA Fest. And Midland asked me to record a song with them, and another artist wanted me to help them write a song. And so I'm sure that's happening with Tracy and Clay and them, where they're pointing at us or inviting us to be special guests on a big show of theirs. I did one with a festival Megan Moroney was headlining, and, I'm playing to 13-year-olds, and you have to win them over because they're showing you to their dad going, who's that guy?
I would be hard-pressed to tell Megan Moroney no for anything.
Oh, she's very sweet. And she's huge, of course. I don't know if I would jump on her tour because it would be like I'm an alien every night, So, only so much of that is fun. And then, you by the end of the night, if you've won them over, that generation will go and make a playlist of your music on Spotify. and just sort of give you a spin here and there, and maybe start to like your music, and then look over who else was back there in the 90s, hit makers and other Diamond Rio. Let's check them out.
All the while you have made 1/180th of 1 cent.
That's right. Tens of dollars.
Hey, tell me a little bit about this movie. I saw where you and your wife both kind of signed on as executive producers of this Lifetime movie that's in the works right now.
Yeah, and I was really precious with that song, letting it out, because it's our little treasure, and I've been asked before, but someone I know and trust makes a lot of movies for Lifetime, and who had been talking to me for 2 years about producing a documentary on me, came at me for a Lifetime movie. And I said, no, I'm not really interested in that. And he said, well, will you take a meeting? So I took a meeting, and they won me over. It wasn't just going to be, here's my song, go do what you do. It was real involvement, the development of the script, the development of how Lisa and I would appear. We have small parts in the movie. And then what the sensibilities of it would be. I really trusted that Adam Reed, our co-executive producer who does a lot of these movies, I really trusted that he was going to involve us and just do a great job. So that's how it turned out. It really turned out good and maybe great. We saw it last night in a small theater in Franklin, Tennessee. And, the guy sitting to my left is a buddy who's a retired Navy SEAL, and he's laughing hard. I think he cried. I'm not going to say, but there's some really emotional moments in there, and there's some really good laughs, and so that's my favorite kind of movie, unless there's car chases. And,
Understood.
So they did a great job. It's coming on the 23rd, and I'd do it again if they asked. It was really, really nice.
I've been spending a lot more time in Nashville with my involvement with the Country Radio Hall of Fame. Matter of fact, when I got inducted back in the summertime, they kind of allowed us to go into the Country Music Hall of Fame, into parts of it that normally people don't have access to. That was kind of cool. And then, we were allowed to spend a little bit more time at displays and really kind of get more into it than I would say your average tourist was. And then I read where they have rolled out a big feature display for you and your career. And I guess that's out now, and it'll be around for another year?
Yeah, through August of next year, I think. And I had they had some of my stuff, and they had a display case that I thought was a lot of fun. Friends would send me a picture of it when they'd come into town and go through there. So when the Hall of Fame said they wanted to do a 1,200-foot exhibit for 17 months, I couldn't believe it. And they worked hard on it. That's the biggest part of the honor, is all the work, all the people putting all that work into making it great. We had just been going through everything in my storage, all of the tapes that I have, and we've been digitizing and archiving everything for a fan experience things that we can share. And so we were in the process of laying it out like a FAA investigation in a big warehouse floor, So they came on the scene for the exhibit right about then, and they were just, their mouths were watering. Look, let us come over there. So they got to see everything and pick what they really wanted to use. And they came up with Aaron Olson, who was the editorial director on it, came up with the title, The Hard Way on Purpose, 2 of my album titles. She had read the book, and she said, I think this sums you up. I thought, okay, I'm really a tough guy. I do things the stupid way.
I wouldn't say that at all. Matter of fact, I have said so many times, countless times, I believe that the Killin' Time album, start to finish, back in the days when it was still on vinyl, you drop the needle on that thing, you run it through, flip it over, listen to the B-side of it. I don't know another album in all of country music that I literally loved every single song and every aspect and nuance of. It's a master class in how to do it right. And obviously, fans certainly resonated with it. RCA resonated with it. You became famous because of it. So don't put yourself down. Don't cut yourself short on that.
No, I thanks, and it means a lot to hear you say that. I know you've been paying close attention to a lot of music over the years, so thank you for that. Yeah, I'm self-deprecating as a protective mechanism to keep my ego from hurting me, But, looking back on all of this stuff, looking back on that album, the things that people have said to me about that album, I've always had a protective way of discounting compliments by 40% just so that, I didn't, become an egomaniac thinking I'm as great as anyone else thinks, and looking back, there's some things where I just have to say, take that whole compliment, what you said about it. I'm going to take that whole compliment to heart and then maybe discount the next one.
How much time are you actually getting back home? How's the fam? How are your brothers? And everyone back in Katy, Texas and around there.
Yeah, everybody's doing great. My mom just turned 90. We were down for her birthday. She's doing great. I'd say for 90, she's just shocking us, My brothers are all good. We get to see everybody fairly regularly. We're closer than ever. And when we can't get together, we get on a conference line and talk for 2 hours. And haven't seen some of my friends out there in a while because my mom's not out in Katy anymore, and so I'm going where she is. But I think I'm going to be able in the fall to get back and spend more time there and maybe do a show.
Well, next time I swing into Mo's place, I'll tell them you said hey. Next time I run into Joe Ladd, I will tell him you said hey. And next time I run into
Joe.
Joe is still around. Joe still looks good. Joe still sounds good. And Joe still drives out to his little ranch in East Bernard once a week to knock over the grass.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, tell him I said hi. I talked about him in the book because he was on the air when I was about 5 or 6 years old. He's an old guy,
Yes, he is.
And my mom called in to request Okie from Muskogee. And it was an important moment for me as a kid because my mom said, you have to hear this new Merle Haggard song. And we got to stay up late waiting to hear it. And then Joe played it. And he came on and I'm going to play this new Merle Haggard song so that one mom can get the black boys off to bed. And something like that. And played Okie from Muskogee. And then I would meet him years later at a jamboree or an Opry. I can't remember the name of that Opry, but it was something Opry down in the Houston area. And then, of course, we had the album release party at Chip Kickers, and Joe was there. So it was fun to be able to have that little childhood story come around full circle. You might have been there too.
Actually, no, that was before my arrival in Houston. I was still working in Brady, Texas when you broke, and I still recall to this day getting the 45 sent in the mail with the brown RCA label on the 45 from this new artist named Clint Black. I remember the day. And of course, by the time, I got to Houston, still in the early 90s, you had really blown up by then. But you know what? I'm going to give you credit for this, and I can say this about just a handful of artists, because I was on the air in that market for a long, long time. And I will tell you that Kenny Rogers, Clint Black, and Tanya Tucker were three people that never failed to call when they were rolling through town. We may not have even put you on the air. It was just, hey, rolling through, heard you on the radio,
hey.
Just thought I'd call and say howdy. And that happened a lot with all three of you.
Howdy to Rowdy.
That made me feel so special, and I'm sure it made the other jocks feel special too. It really did.
Yeah, I wish I would have done more of that. And back then we didn't have cell phones, but once we got cell phones, it got a little easier to do. Tanya Tucker, by the way, she's got that wild and crazy side of her reputation, but she is a sweetheart.
Oh, absolutely.
She does things that no one ever sees. She came down to my bus. I was at the hotel across from Vanderbilt years ago. And she came down and got me off my bus and took me up to see this kid who was terminally ill because he was a fan. And, that's just who she is. Always calling, always texting, and such a sweetheart, big heart.
You'd never hear me utter a cross word about her. Well, Clint, I'm looking forward to reading the book when I get my copy, and I'm looking forward to sharing our visit with the original Country Gold folks that are listening on our 140 radio stations all across the nation, and, of course, the people that'll catch this on Facebook and YouTube and Spotify and all the other digital platforms that we have. And it's absolutely amazing to think, at least for you and me, it really did start with that 145 that got sent to the radio station way back in 1988, 89. And you know what? You've done okay.
I tell you, you've done okay yourself. And that was life-changing for me. You watched it from a different vantage point, but you know what happened. So you watched a life change before your very eyes.
It's no different than Chesney and I. The first time that I introduced Kenny Chesney, it was to 38 people at the Midnight Rodeo up on I-45 in Hallsworth when he was still on the Capricorn label. I remember introducing Garth Brooks at a rattlesnake roundup when he had his amplifiers propped up on hay bales. No one knew who the guy was. 6 months later, you couldn't touch him. I love those experiences, and that's part of my blessed life. And you're a part of it too. I live a charmed existence, and it's largely because I had these little touch points with you guys over the years. I'm so glad I did what I did for a living.
Well, you guys were our portal. You were our supporters. I never forgot that you guys are in the business because you're fans. You love country music, whatever genre you're in. You love that music. You want to be playing it on the radio, and I always tried to remember to appreciate that side of you guys. You were having an impact on our career, but we were fans. Before I got into this business, first I was a fan, and we watched every award show, and we just knew Randy Travis is going to win that award, and we loved it. It was great.
Well, Clint, I know I went over on time. I appreciate you carving out this half hour for us. I am, again, really looking forward to reading the book and really actually looking forward to seeing you at some point in the future. I hope it's sooner than later because I know it's been a while.
Well, I'll give you a rowdy howdy when I see you, and big hug coming to you. I always enjoy my time with you. It's fantastic.